How's it going, Critter Family? I hope you all are doing well. We are back at it again with, this is a recommendation. If you hear that noise in the background, this time it is not Hermes, it is the wild little monkey that is my baby. Ellie. If she comes around where I can get her, then I will show you how big she's gotten. Since the last time I showed you the picture, she was about 2 months old, and now she's almost 4 months old, so she's growing big, and she's a sweet little baby, and she's my blessing. So, so anyway, this is a suggestion how to be the peaceful alpha. That just sounds like a contradiction of itself. But this is one of the recent recommendations I received from somebody, so I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on him, as well as somebody was asking about Cat the dog trainer. I'm not sure which one. It looks like there's a few on TikTok, so if anybody knows the Cat the dog trainer you're trying to show me, or you want me to look into, then please either feel free to leave a link to them, or let me know specifically which one you want to look at. So this is the little monkey. Wanna say hi, Ellie? I know you want to eat me. She's always trying to eat fingers. Oh my goodness. You're being crazy. She's playing with Hermes Tunnel now, so I'm sure she'll make another appearance here, and you'll be able to hear her squeaky little protests. But anyway, so here we're going to be looking at the peaceful alpha. So no harm, no hate on this guy. Of course, everything used under Fair Use Act. Like, this is nothing personal, but I want to explain why that sounds kind of silly, because alpha was never intended to be this aggressive, all in all, gruesome leadership. Alpha is the term we use when referring, or scientists use when referring to a pack of wolves. The alphas are the breeding pair. So you have the mom, you have the dad, they make babies. The mom and dad are just by default the alpha. They may use that term as well with orcas or a killer whale, because I believe they do run in, I guess they run in pods, not packs, but it's the same kind of thing. With predators, they kind of tend to use that kind of language versus a herd. So with an alpha, no human can be an alpha. No dog can be an alpha. People have misinterpreted that term to being basically a dictator, an overall ruler, that I control every living thing, everything you do to every living thing. A wolf parent, the alpha, the pack leader, breeding pair again, are just in charge because they are the parents. They raise their young, and then they're younger young, where they have a few different generations within the same family order or pack. There's a whole bunch of videos on this. I'll try to put the links to some that I've covered in the description below, as to why you're not alpha, your dog is not alpha, your dog will not see you as alpha. In the simplest of forms, dogs see us as humans, and we should see dogs as dogs, and we should see that dogs see us as humans, not dogs. There might be a few special cases that see us as a giant dog, or cat sees us as a giant cat. But we are primates, we are predators, we are bipedal, 2 feet. We don't walk on 4 feet, and we don't act like a dog. So anyway, seeing that this is the peaceful alpha, I appreciate what he's trying to do, but it's a contradiction of itself. Just be a peaceful leader. Don't call yourself alpha, because it's already been, that term has been run through the mud and the muck for so long. Say hi, Ellie. Say hi. Say hello. Wanna squeak? Oh, yes, you squeak. She always squeaks that way, don't worry. She does not like being contained. She's probably going to push a bunch of buttons on the keyboard, so I got to be careful. For right now, I think I'm going to try and unplug my keyboard. Just so she does jump over there, she's not pushing a bunch of buttons. But anyway, so sorry for that. If you're ready to get into the video, then, oh my goodness, then let's get into it.
All right, you guys, I am in the kitchen. I am cooking, and I didn't have to tell Bubba to stay out of the kitchen and to lay down. That is just something that a really good dog will do for their peaceful alpha.
Okay. For their peaceful alpha. So he's trying to speak in the terms of being a leader, of being alpha. He still has this mindset of I'm above you, I'm your leader, I'm your, like they try to act like it's a herd. And I mean that like a herd of horses or a herd of cattle or deer, whatever, where you generally have like the herd leader and the other herd animals look to them for guidance, for safety. They look to them to see if they need to run from something. The herd leader, as prey animals, they always want to follow them because otherwise they die. When it comes to predators, dogs living in a home that have been changed biologically over so many thousands of years from their original ancestors, which were wolf-like canids, they don't care to have a leader. I mean, they need boundaries, they need guidance, sure, but they're not going to do it for you because Bally's playing in the window. They're not going to do it for you. She doesn't see me as leader. Of course not. She's a cat. Adonis didn't see me as leader. He just saw me as the human who, maybe a parent, I don't know, the human partner that keeps him from doing things that he wants to, but also gives him things that he likes. So I'm not saying just because we're not alpha or we're peaceful alpha, it doesn't mean diddly squat. The dog is there because it's been reinforced. And I know this dog is a shot collar. You can tell because it's very tight behind the head and it shows in his thumbnail. So we'll be able to see that the dog is there because of the shot collar, because of prior training, because he has made a consistent habit of the dog not coming into the kitchen. So the dog is doing this to avoid punishment, or because it's more rewarding. Say you're using positive reinforcement. It would be more rewarding to stay out of the kitchen because you get a piece of bacon or ham or your own egg or whatever versus going in the kitchen because you don't get anything. So.
Did, at one point, give him the forbidden eye contact angle. And this would have been, well, when he was a puppy at the edge here. When he was crossing that edge when I was cooking. And I gave him the forbidden angle and I created contrast. Like 2 times when he was a puppy. And if you want to understand this system.
So he's intimidating the dog by holding eye contact, probably giving a very hard stare. If you've ever seen, is it Remington? I never remember his name, but the little bear, the bear movie, he's like has a little raincoat on, a little hat. I'm sure, Barrington Bear, something. Sorry. He talks about in one of his movies, that he would say that Aunt Lucy would tell him to give people a hard stare with eye contact. So he says the forbidden angle. I don't want my dog to be afraid when I make eye contact with them. We're not dogs. We don't need to, even if you're talking about alpha, I'm not going to keep bringing this up, but comparing the two, we don't need to compare because they're not the same. But if we do, they don't need to give them a constant hard stare to stay out of the kitchen. They respect each other. Animals don't say please and thank you. They say move, do it now. Otherwise you're going to move me. But it doesn't mean that they're constantly afraid of each other. They interact differently. Humans, we don't have to do that. We could just repeat the cue, telling him to move out of the kitchen, walking him out of the kitchen, putting a baby gate up, whatever, tethering him, on a harness to something else, and rewarding over time when he stays out of the kitchen.
That you can, prepare your food and cook and have a dog that respects you. I'm going to explain it to you right now. So
not the dog that respects you, the dog that fears you or has learned, when I'm in the kitchen, you cause negative attention, you cause negative feelings. Now she's in her little kitty box. They've learned things that they want to avoid. Adonis, I didn't have to worry about him being in the kitchen. I never really had to because I worked. He didn't really care. He would wait for his little snack because he knew he was going to get it anyway because I spoiled him. By the way, on July 17th was his 1-year anniversary, and I thought it was actually kind of nice because I took Allie in to get her shots on that day, and we got the same room that we had at the vet office where I said goodbye to my good boy. And it was a good bit of closure. So I miss him dearly. My sister and I just went to the park for the first time in a long time since I used to go there often with him. And that was also really nice. So anyway, I'm getting off track. But I never worried about him being in the kitchen. If he was in the kitchen, I would just walk and just lead him out and say, go on, shoo. And that was fine. Now, I might tell him stay, or I might just repeat it, but he was good. No big deal. He didn't need to respect me.
The first component is, guys, dogs talk, they use calming signals. Let's honor that system.
Agreed.
Come in at the baseline and always be operating in a trust technique angle where your back is in a side body to your dog. If you're going to move past your dog, give them calming signals. This is just standard operating procedure. This is how animals operate.
I mean,
you want to have the kind.
I think that's fine too. Like, I don't think I have to. I never thought to give Adonis or any dog, I mean, okay, if it's a client I'm working with, I'm going to move differently than I do Adonis, which I know and he trusts me, we're fine. Where I can walk past him, I can step over him, I can roll past him, whatever, ride a bike past him, and he's fine. Because we have that trust. I'm not going to necessarily consciously give him calming signals as I move past him. I feel like that would create more of I'm not a dog. I can work with him the way a human understands a dog, and I can relieve pressure as much as I can where, if we're in a tight corner, I don't want to corner a dog. I want to give them areas to move. I'm not going to go for their face. But if I'm walking by them, I'll be conscious that I'm not going to stomp past them. Or if it's a dog I don't know, I might walk around them, I might redirect them so I have more room to pass through. But I'm not going to lick my lips. I'm not going to, give an eye flick necessarily just to move past my dog that I know. If you want to do that, by all means, go for it. Knock yourself out. I think that's great. But dogs know that humans don't communicate in the same way as dogs. We can to our own extent, and dogs can understand that. If I'm looking at a dog and I'm teaching them eye contact and they give me a little eye flick, I'll give them a little eye flick back, and they're like, oh. If I see that they have they give a lip lick when I'm going to go pet or do something, I step away. If they have an open mouth and I go to pet them or I move towards them and they close that mouth, I say, okay, I'm putting too much pressure, I'll back away again. They open their mouth. We're reading each other that way. I don't have to copy the same, I don't have to do a fake scratch or sniff the ground, so to say, to show them that calming signal. That's just me.
Respect that Bubba offers me, start to tune into that. The second is honor the forbidden angle. The forbidden angle is something that is used by alphas to create contrast. Do it.
Intimidation. And dude, you are not an alpha, and that's not necessarily, wolves and true pack animals. Alpha is the parent. They don't have to go and stare their kid down. They may give them what you call the mom look when your kid's acting up, like warning them. They may do the same thing, but they also show a lot of other body language. A lot of dogs will, Allie will look at Hermes, he'll just sit there, and because he's more of a prey animal than she is, she'll just look at him out of excitement, and he just looks at her, and then he just looks away, or he'll put his little head down. He'll kind of look at her and like little beady eyes sticking out. There's nothing going on in his head but like a little monkey with those little symbols. But he'll look at her, but then he looks away, and he's like, oh, what's going on? His little brain cells are kind of working that he's like, I want to avoid conflict. But I don't want to promote staring my dog down to cause them to move and give me my space. I don't think that's necessary. That's just me.
There are 4 calming signals that move on a string. I call them the sequence of surrender.
Nah.
Standing still in a side body is a calming signal, but when the movement shifts into sitting down, that is a deeper calming signal, and when it shifts from sitting down into laying down. I don't know that it is. And
you know what? I'm wrong. That he doesn't have an e-collar on at this moment, but in the thing it shows that he does. So this dog just had a little skin roll because he has a very wide. I do like it's a wide collar. It looks very tight though, kind of uncomfortable. But this dog at this moment does not have an e-collar on. I take that back. My apologies. And I actually mean that. I'm not just saying that to be silly. I was wrong about that.
Being communicated about the state of the dog's body So standing, sitting, laying down with the head up, and then finally when they put their
I would say
down,
less of surrender
that is-
and more of the dog's state of comfort. If they're doing the little froggy, if they're like standing, they're not so comfortable. If they're sitting, maybe more comfortable. If they're laying down, they're either really trying to appease you, or, you know, especially if they're doing the little froggy legs, they're pretty comfortable. If they're able to put their head down. I mean, this dog here, we can see, is pretty comfortable. He's not, like, fearful. Yeah, he's just chilling. But I wouldn't call that a state of surrender. Again, this is the whole idea of using the word alpha to make yourself feel more powerful than a lesser being. It's easy to bully and manipulate and push dogs and horses and certain other animals because they don't fight back. I mean, alpha is not about fighting for position. It's naturally given because it is a parent figure in a wolf pack. That is it.
another calming signal. So all of these positions are indicators, and they move on a string. They
So this is
indicate
just
what
his
the
own
dog's
words. He's just making
body
up all this, by the way. And this is not scientifically proven. He's just saying that this is what he calls these things. And it sounds fancy, but it really means nothing.
body emotional state is. So when they're laying down with their chin down, they are in a zenned out state. And so there's some clues that move. There's some clues that are revealed.
I wouldn't
to you
necessarily say
from that
zenned out, but they're
position.
relaxed. I mean, you can
So,
call it whatever you want.
I call this a stage 3 where he's got his body down. But his
Stage
head is up.
3 is
So
making it
if
so much
something
more
were to happen,
confusing.
he
The
would
dog is
bounce
just chilling.
forward. And if he were sitting down and something were to happen, he would be able to pounce forward more quickly. And if he were standing up and something were to trigger him, he would be on top of that even more quickly. So
Agreed, but that
that's
doesn't mean
something-
that he's going to be attacking with this energy. It's just he's able to move. A lot of times when people have dogs who go from a stand to a sit, you know, you tell your dog sit and the dog lays down. That's either because you haven't taught the sit properly or they're trying to appease you more. When I was taking Adonis to training and these idiots didn't know what they were doing, they were just abusive, and they were abusive. Your dog, if it was in a sit and it went to go lay down, they would have us correct the dog. And we had him on choke chains and prong collars and nonsense. This was long, long ago. And they would have us correct the dogs for going from a sit to a down. And in that state, they were so stressed they couldn't hold themselves in a sit. They were trying to appease us as masters, really, as alphas and all this nonsense. And we were taught to correct them. Now, I don't care. I mean, if I really want the dog to stay in a sit, then okay. I don't care. I'm not into obedience. Like, I'm not into competition. If I have a dog that I say sit and they automatically lay down, I will retrain this sit that the word sit means sit, or we may change it to something else. And then down means to lay down. Not vice versa. But that's, again, not a big deal.
that is really clever to notice and incorporate in your training. First is honor the calming signals. Second is honor the forbidden angle like a peaceful alpha would. Third is appreciate.
I
the
feel like
sequence of
training is
surrendering.
already confusing enough as it is. It doesn't need to be. And then when people like this throw in all these words and this word salad and this nonsense, it's just so confusing. Like, your dog there, if your dog looks like this, they're chill. They're not worried about anything. They're pretty calm. This is what my goal, this right here is the goal I shoot for when I'm proofing the dog in a number of different environments. What I mean by proofing is you get them used to, habituated, and comfortable with noises and environments and flooring. So if your dog is comfortable on wood flooring, you teach them to be comfortable, obviously, with carpet. They're probably more comfortable with carpet than wood flooring, but walk them on brick, walk them on wet grass, dry grass, dead grass, twigs and leaves over a metal grate, that has water running under it, smooth and rough concrete and asphalt, just to name the flooring and the ground, not to mention ice or snow or, being able to put them into different environments where there's different noises, by a kitchen, at a cafe, at a Lowe's, at Walgreens, at Target, at a restaurant, if you choose to do that. Only choose to do that if you have, I don't endorse people taking their dog willy-nilly to restaurants and places that really only allow service animals, properly trained service animals, not just what people call their dog service animals, or ESAs. But anywho, proofing your dog, when they can look like this, when you're working on any one stage, you're ready to move on to the next stage. And it's going to start over where your dog is going to be maybe more nervous, not as comfortable. And you just sit there and you just relax in this environment. You visit this environment for short periods, like maybe 5 to 10 minutes max, or 2 seconds to start with, 2 minutes to start with, wherever, in a parking lot, in a sand lot, at a baseball game, whatever. Take your dog there, and once they can slowly get to this point where they're comfortable for a period of time, then you can move on to the next thing. That's just my
Now,
philosophy.
4 and 5 are going to be use the forbidden angle like an alpha would with respect to resources. That's the 4th point, and territory. That's the 5th point.
Okay,
Dude,
so
your whole life, your whole house is territory, okay? Don't worry about this. You're not a dog. You don't need to be like protect. You don't need to act like a dog, okay? If you don't want your dog to go after, it's not fair to put a dog in your territory and then just, like force them to accept everything as yours. It's like they didn't ask to be put here. So if you don't want them going after your plate, don't leave it on a table where they can get to it. If you don't want them chewing on your 17 hats they've chewed through, then stop leaving hats for them to chew on. Even if you leave toys and bones around, clearly the hats are more fun to chew on than the bones and the toys. If you just leave them there, the hats are more fun. And if you try to tell me the dog knows better, they don't know better. They just live in the moment. They chew on the hat, and you were too lazy or ignorant to put it up, and you go and get mad at the dog. Of course, the dog is going to associate you as something scary, but they're not going to stop chewing on the hat. So stop being lazy, pick up your damn hats, and give your dog more attention with the toys you want them to play with and chew on. If you have a plate of food, pick it up. It's not hard. Yes, that was a very specific situation directed at someone specifically. But anyway, a few someones specifically. But yeah, I mean, it just, don't worry about this whole territory nonsense, blah, 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 blah. Look, my territory is my dog's territory. My dog's territory is my territory, which is our home. We're together. We're partners. I'm not a master. You're not a slave. I'm not higher than you.
I've been eating for about 5 minutes. Bubba is in what I'm going to call stage 4 of sequence surrendering. He's got his belly down, his throat down.
Stop worrying about this
He
whole
is aware
surrendering
that I've got
nonsense.
this food here, but
He's being very
so
patient.
respectful for it. I'm in the side body position, and I'm going to talk to you about points 4 and 5 of the system. Point 4 is...
It just sounds
it
so
is very
confusing.
alpha to use the forbidden angle to claim resources. Resources could be...
Don't
food,
talk about
it could
what
be
is alpha and what
toys,
isn't. You don't even
it could
understand
be
it, dude.
anything that the dog has value over. And there is, think of a confrontational, think of having a confrontation without actually having the confrontation. You square up, you make the eye contact, you move forward, and whoever makes the calming signal first, basically they're the beta.
Okay,
And
okay.
so
Don't.
that's-
This guy
that's-
is more beta, more sigma male, more whatever than anything he will ever be alpha. He is so low on the totem pole in his own self-confidence that he gets some kind of power from controlling a very powerful breed of dog, any dog for that matter, but especially a very powerful looking breed. So he gets off on thinking that, oh yeah, I can control you, so I feel better about myself. And then he's spreading this ignorance and misinformation. You don't need to be over controlling of your dog. Your dog is fine. This dude is not alpha. He never will be. No human will ever be alpha. He's not a peaceful alpha. He's just spewing nonsense and intimidating his dog, and he seems to get off on some kind of power rush that he can control his dog with eye contact. But we know in the thumbnail, he has a shock collar on the dog. So he's used it at some point. So he hasn't gotten away with all this being peaceful. He's using a shock collar. He's using other corrections. His dog is just learning, okay, dude, I'm shut down or I'm relaxed. I just, I do whatever you tell me. And it's easy to do that because he's a dog. Try that with a real wolf, a grown wolf. You'll find out who's alpha real soon. And it's not because the wolf is going to just come in and charge and take over everything. They will only do that if they feel the need to protect themselves, or they're protecting a resource.
It's part of the system. And then the fifth part is using the forbidden angle to keep the territory safe. These are
If you
points
have to
4 and 5.
constantly fight to keep your territory safe from your own dog, you got problems, dude. You have no relationship with your dog. Like, if you feel like you constantly have to, again, an alpha with, I know I said I was going to keep comparing, but an alpha and a wolf, they don't have to fight to constantly keep their rank. They are the parents. It is just a given. If the other wolves want to go out and start their own little pack, then they will. They will leave. They will find other females, or the females will go out and find other males, and blah, blah, blah. You know, start their own little family, but they're not constantly fighting like we see them in zoos and sanctuaries, which are enclosed small areas where wolves are normally, they have hundreds of miles, of square miles, maybe thousands of square miles of their home territory, and they're kept in basically a studio apartment together with strangers, and then fed maybe 5 or 6 times a week because people say, oh, we don't feed them on Fridays because it's more natural for them to fast. Baloney. There's nothing natural about the sanctuary you put them in. I'm not saying all sanctuaries, but, you know, the ones that I'm referring to. There's nothing natural about it. So there you can have more fighting because they're adult individuals. Like when you had Tilikum in SeaWorld and you have a bunch of adult killer whales put together that are from different pods and they don't speak the same language and they start beating up on each other. That's how Tilikum, partly how he became so aggressive. If you've never seen the documentary Blackfish, I highly recommend it. So it's a sad documentary, but it's very informing. I believe it's free. I think you can look it up on YouTube or many places, but Blackfish. It's a very cool documentary that I highly recommend. So I've gone long enough on this video. I haven't even watched the rest of this guy's video. I have another one that I will go over by him. And hopefully I'll be talking less and watching more. But there's a lot of updates in this video, and I go off on tangents. So if you get tired of the tangents, then please feel free to go watch the video firsthand. And then you can come back and listen to whatever tales I happen to tell. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you to all the wonderful, kind comments. You all are amazing, and I so appreciate each and every one of you. Go say hi to your little critters. Say hi to do for me. Give them some kind of loving they appreciate. Until next time, practice peace, patience, and positivity.